Hello, wholeness, greeting, and I don't follow any particular path except my own. So things that work for me, I incorporate, and if it doesn't work for me, then I don't incorporate. That's me.
I'm Michele, and I am a Jewish practitioner and a practitioner of witchy magic ways. I follow Judaism and Jewitchery, but I also practice Southern folk magic and Appalachian folk magic because that's part of my heritage as well. So I will be talking about all of that beautiful stuff.
And I am Tegan, and I also follow my own eclectic path. I call it the Moonshine Path, and I call it intuitive Welsh witchcraft, which is a little misleading, but it's intuitive because I came to it on my own. I didn't study with anybody. I learned things on my own, and I practice just what feels authentic out of lots of different practices. And because I'm Welsh on my father's side, goes back to, my father's line goes back to Middle Ages Wales. I follow, if I talk about deity, if I talk about gods and goddesses, I usually talk about them in Welsh terms. I use the Welsh names and things like that. That's basically my practice. I'm the founder of Moonshine. People might remember me from my Moonshine podcast many, many, many years ago. I guess that's all about me for starters. That's really all I can say. I am also very interested in science, so I do try to mix science in together with my practice, and I'm all about energies and the energies of the earth and the energies of the universe and the energies of everything in the universe, including the moon, which is our topic for today, is moon phases. So I'm really interested in Michele's take on moon magic, coming from a Jewish perspective. I'm really, the Kabbalah, however you choose to say it, has always fascinated me. And I used to watch on Saturday mornings, there was this show, a cable access show. His name was like Rabbi David or something, and he was teaching the Kabbalah to a class of adults, and I was just riveted with all of that. I will let you take it from here.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I know that for most people who follow the moon or work with the moon in a witchy way or even a more naturalist way, whatever way, usually the full moon is the focus, and they do new moon work, and definitely with all the different phases, but I've found that most of the people I know work most heavily with the full moon. And in Judaism, because our calendar is lunisolar, we have a lot of emphasis on the new moon. And Rosh Chodesh is actually, in our terminology, means the head of the month. And it's a mini holiday every month when the month starts, the new month. The emphasis for us is on new moon. We do follow all the moon phases, and we have different prayers and practices and different blessings for different things at different times during the month with the moon cycles. But Rosh Chodesh, or the first sighting of the sliver of the moon, we have the dark moon, which is, when it's completely dark. But the new moon, the actual Rosh Chodesh, is when you see the first sliver of the moon. And that's what the whole calendar system is based on in Judaism, because they didn't have the math back then to calculate into advance when that was going to happen. It would be when someone first sighted that first sliver of the moon, and they would run from place to place or build bonfires or whatever so they could spread the word throughout the communities that that sliver had been sighted, and so the new month was starting. And that's why you notice, if you look at the Jewish calendar, that many of our holidays start on either the first of the month as the new moon or the 15th at the full moon. Most of the time. There are a few that are on different days, but the vast majority are either on the new moon or the full moon, the first sighting of the sliver of the moon or the 15 days later. So I think that's fascinating.
That is, and I'm glad that you made that distinction, because it is a thing with me where people will call the new moon when they really mean the dark moon.
Right.
And I mean, to each his own, but it
I do that. I'm not going to lie. I do that
Yeah.
too, because, society as a whole doesn't make a distinction between the two. But there is that distinction, and even within Judaism and the Jewish calendar system, that distinction is there. And in our liturgy, that distinction is there. We have, hold on one second, I have notes that I wanted to bring up because I know you wanted to hear about this. We have the dark moon, the molad, or the rebirth of the moon when it's dark. We have time. Traditionally, it's been a time for fasting and spiritual reflection. And then when the first sliver was sighted and it was the actual new moon, then that was the start of the month and everything. And then there was a special prayer that was said any time between that and 15 days later for the full moon. There was a special prayer that could be said. Generally, it's closer to the new moon, but it could be any time before the moon gets full that prayer is said. And then another one that's, when the moon is full, and then a blessing for as the moon is waning back to the dark phase and the rebirth. So we do have that 4-phase emphasis.
4 quarters, basically, yeah.
That's the word I'm trying to say.
I know. Basically, and with mine too, I observed 3 days of the full moon and the 3 days of the dark moon, the day before, the day of, and the day after, as it's, almost full, and then the full moon, and then when it's receding, and then the same with the dark moon. There are specific energies with each of those 6 days. And then, of course, you have the waxing moon as it's growing larger and the waning moon as it's growing smaller. All of those have just subtle differences in energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very similar. Even though the cultures are very different, and the learnings, they all come from such different places, they're so similar.
And I've noticed that, and I think that's fascinating, and I love that, how no matter what culture I study, and I do study a lot of different cultures, read and learn about what other people do, because I find that fascinating, and I just want to know. And I think it is so neat that all the peoples of the earth, the vast majority of peoples of the earth, no matter where they're at, have similar practices, not necessarily the same, or if they're the same, they might be called something different or have a slightly different meaning or purpose, but they're virtually the same for all intents and purposes.
It speaks to a larger truth, What about you, Belit?
I've been drawn lately to working with the dark because it's, even though we have these concepts about the polarisms and whatnot, but you can't have light without darkness.
That is true.
I think that because, to me, it seems like there's an overabundance of focus on the light. Go to the light. I'm not focused. I'm sorry. Throwing my head. The light.
It's so tired of that.
Darkness. you know. So just more focus on that, and not that. And sometimes the focus on darkness is so bad and it's so wicked and evil, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on coming to least some things. I have some things in the work on the dark room that I'm going to do. So I do my best to do some type of ritual meditation on each of the 4 major phases, and then something on the dark moon.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of truth hiding in the dark moon, and you have to sort of go inside yourself to find that truth during the dark moon.
Tegan, if you're interested in learning more about the Jewish moon phases and everything, I actually have a moon guide available on my website for free. I can get you the link for that, and I'll make sure that it's in the show notes for this episode too, for anybody else who wants it. But it has information about those 4 phases and then the different blessings and what they are meant for. So you might find that interesting.
I, as a matter of fact, have downloaded that already.
Oh, yay!
I did. I downloaded that a long time ago. I haven't had time to sit down with it and really study it, but I do have it. But we will definitely put it in the show notes for listeners to read, because it is fascinating.
That is great. And I'm excited that we're launching this on the full moon too. I just think that's neat that we intentionally chose that.
Right.
Yes.
That moon phase for this. So.
Yes, I think she is going to shine a light on our podcast so everybody can find it, hopefully.
Exactly. All right. Well, that is going to wrap us up for today in this first episode. Thank you both for being here with me to chat about the moon. I am super excited about that. I personally love the moon, as you can tell, and it means a lot to me. So thank you for joining me. And we will see all of you again right here in your podcast feed, wherever you're listening to us, at the next moon phase with the new moon. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.